democracy is a work in progress, and nation building, and we're relatively very young in this process. And I think that we've sometimes been a bit unfair to ourselves because designing the template, designing building blocks, managing an environment of this nature, states not coming out of the reality of people's existence, has also brought to the fore the difficulties of building democracy. And all you have to do is to look at the United States of America, look at other parts of Europe. Our journey has been severely slowed, by the successive years consumed by the locusts, and in this particular case, the military. And I'm not talking here of military in any disparaging sense. It's that they were, by no stretch of the imagination, agents of democracy. And it's a measure of how far we have traveled but gone nowhere, that even after over 20 years of our so-called return to democracy in 1999, we're still in the hands of a retired general. And we've only had, briefly, Jonathan and Yaradua, who never really finished their term. So if you divide the period of time we've had with the one that has been taken over by the general, then you can understand, that this journey has been severely slowed. So yes, we thought that we'll finish our work with the Peace Committee and go home, but we discovered that the baby has, whether it's jaundice or whatever, but requires more medical attention. And for all, we're just like midwives. So it turns out the midwife can't go. But we're also hoping that we can continue to nudge and encourage our people so that this system is supported by infrastructure and institutions, that can make this process something that will just become a routine process. Our institutions, and almost each and every one of them, exist nominally. Please don't forget, you have to look back and ask how many parties General Buhari had to hop through to get to power. We have such a volatile political system that there's no party today that has a history of any serious antecedents. It's just we're lucky, hopefully, that the military has gone. But if you recall, every time the military came and decided they wanted to go, new parties were invented. We have really not had anything that grew out of the exigencies of the moment, taking into consideration our culture, taking into consideration the levels of our literacy or lack of, taking into consideration a range of factors. Every time we've had things cobbled up just to be able to serve as receptacles for receiving power. This is how APC came to be. This is how PDP came to be in 1999. So General Abdul Salam felt he needed to go after a few months, and there was the necessity to say, democracy is coming, let's get ready. So we have really not had political structures with any form of what you may call ideological commitment. We talk about like-minded people, but what you mean by like-minded people are just a bunch of people who simply come together so we can receive democracy. And the result is that we've always had more of the same, in part because many of the actors have always been people who were business partners of the old order. The military also are very careful, almost like the colonial state, and they weigh the consequences of handing over to this person or the other person. And a lot of that continued to haunt us up till today. So this is where we are. And I say very seriously that we are expecting too much of ourselves. The reason why our politics remains, for example, highly violent, and may remain so for a while until certain things fall into place, which is that the incentives cease to be what they are. You cannot say that you run the kind of system that we're running, and getting into the Senate, for example, you expect it to be a walk in the park. I mean, the thought of collecting 30 million at the end of every month as just side money, not to talk of the kind of money people are making and you can make by what you call oversight. So, I mean, to enter the National Assembly is to enter paradise. So you cannot expect that people are just going to take it easy to go in and out of those places. To enter government house as a governor, to enter, these are not, so when we talk about democracy, we talk about politics and so on and so forth. I've seen people in Europe and America who've been in public life. They've come out I was at the Kennedy School, and I saw people who went to Washington, to be the equivalent of ministers and so on. And they finished and they came back to the classroom. I saw people in Oxford. They finished, they come back, they're still riding bicycles like everybody else. So the incentives that we have in our structure are designed for the system to remain volatile and almost for the system to fail. So we're going to be on this road, and as I've often said, for a very long time, but hopefully, and this is one of the things we took away from INEC, and I think that they've done a pretty good job of trying to get the systems in place. And until we get to a point in which systems replace human manipulation and interventions, we can never be talking about free, fair, and credible elections in Nigeria. You know what General Abdul Salam said, our chairman, when that issue came up, people said there are too many political parties. Nigerians say there are too many churches. They say there are too many mosques. But the truth of the matter is to look at that against the backdrop of what is happening in the country. Right now, the only way to survive and to remain relevant in Nigeria is to be connected with the state. The state is the only domain of privilege. And the way the politics is run in Nigeria, you really cannot go wrong. Because you set up shop, you get registered, it comes with consequences and benefits. You had the accusations and the allegations among the political parties themselves about other parties that are just set up by the bigger parties and so on. So either way, the fact is that you are not likely to end up poorer than you went in. I made the point that what we have in Nigeria will probably elsewhere not really pass muster as political parties in the real sense of the word, because we've been independent for how many years now, but we do not have any party in this country that has any shelf life, that stretches up to anything like 20 or so years. As I said, the circumstances that led to the formation of the PDP, for example, or the APC, in each and every one of these, we just hurriedly found building materials, wood is meeting with zinc, and so on and so forth. So a lot of these contraptions cannot bear the weight of the demands of democracy. And most of what you see as violence, about the primaries and all these, most of all this is evidence of the quality and caliber of structures themselves and the people who operate the structure. So if you ask me, the more the merrier.